Welcome to the sneak peek section of our series titled When Men Try to Play God. Our goal is to examine the problems in America from the big picture view, to help you understand the real root causes of our problems, find a lot of common ground with all Americans, and use that newly discovered unity to solve problems for good, for you and future generations. When we last talked in Section 1, we left off with the roadmap to get America back to the summit. Sorry if you didn't see the first section. You're probably saying, summit? What do you mean by summit? You'll note we're going to use the mountaintop example often in this series to help illustrate our discussions. First, we're going to look back at the founding of our country and events leading up to it. Then, we're going to compare our original government, the 1787 version, to others. Next, we're going to look at key aspects of our country today and try to examine them from the top of the mountain. Then, as we said last time, I'm confident we'll find a whole bunch of common ground and start seeing more unity on the business of making America even greater. Our first stop will be to revisit the events leading up to our founding, which we'll call the Seeds of Independence. Here, we will look back to when it all began, with the Pilgrims back in the early 1600s. Those brave Pilgrims saw the world in its true color, living in a new land, creating cities and towns from scratch, unlike the people of Europe who could not appreciate the amount of freedom in the colonies. You could say the people living in Europe didn't know better. This concept of not knowing better will be visited many times. In the governments section, we revisit our mountaintop from Section 1 to illustrate how governments at a fundamental level can be segmented based on responsibility, the individuals or groups. In our discussion on Congress, we will propose an idea that leverages the prophetic words of Patrick Henry from a speech he delivered to the Virginia Ratifying Convention in 1788. How right he was. Learn how a red card that I once used on a project long ago can give American people the power to address what Patrick Henry feared way back in 1788. P.S. If you guessed the idea, I'll send you an autographed copy of my Bulletproof Lawn book and post the details of my idea early. We will also look at worldview. Until I got in this project, I never even heard of the word. Well, actually I bet I did. But remember from Section 1 that I have a hard head and the term never stuck? But putting all humor aside, worldview is a term that we all need to be familiar with, for it talks of those core beliefs for people like, who are we and how did we get here? Today, worldview can be expressed with our mountaintop example. Society has evolved to a point where all matters of life in public must focus on things like facts and things to be measured. But items of faith, religion, values, right and wrong, are relegated to your home or the weekend visit to your church. Remember when we discussed assumptions in the first section and sometimes how they are wrong, just like the earth was once thought to be flat, or eggs are bad for you? And in lawn care business today, it has relevance here as well. Unions. We'll examine the fundamental differences between companies with a unionized workforce versus a non-union company. When we talk about the government running a service or a business, how would that compare to private business in the free market and why they are so different? This will be an interesting discussion. We will examine political correctness and utilize a PC filter. Remember, chemical engineers work often with filtration devices. This will help you understand how political correctness is more than an innocent topic, why it's a covert method for pushing an ideology onto naive Americans. When we talk about the economy, we will see how it mirrors the old-fashioned charcoal grill in my backyard. We think you will find the similarities to be pretty amazing. I hope that you come back to view the next sections planned in the coming weeks as we examine the problems in America from the big picture view to help you understand the real root causes of our problems, find a lot of common ground with all Americans, and use that newly discovered unity to solve problems for good for you and future generations. This is Bob Imbrugata saying thanks and God bless America.